Hey y'all, what's up? Silent Coyote here, and today we're going to be putting together my first ever completely water-cooled gaming PC. That's the CPU and the GPU this time. I know a couple months ago I did a system that was just the CPU. This will be a Ryzen 5 5600 with a GTX 1080 Ti graphics card. All these components came off my test bench, and if you know about my test bench, you would know that. But I had to ship them across the country, so I just tested them out with a stock cooler and some old graphics card I had lying around, and everything worked. So it was time to take the stock cooler off, apply some new thermal paste, because I didn't really trust the thermal paste on the back of the block, which is the Corsair XC5. I picked this up really cheap at Micro Center, and it is built for the AM4 platform, so I didn't really want to risk putting it together with some dried out thermal paste, so I just applied my own and wiped off the other stuff. I was able to pre-apply one of those adhesive back plates, the metal ones with the little adhesive pads, and then I just used a little bit of this Noctua thermal paste that I had from, I don't know, some previous build. Basically, I combined two methods here. I kind of did a cross between the X and the 5 dot, and this always seems to work really well on AM4 processors for me. Now I finally get to install one of the first water cooling components, the CPU block, and this was really easy because, like I said, I used one of those back plates that have the little adhesive pads. How I still have an AM4 back plate without a used adhesive pad, don't ask me. I just have like a bag of back plates, and that just kind of happens, I guess. Now, next it was time to install the SSD, which I'm just using a single Crucial P3 500GB NVMe drive. My intention is to sell this system, so this will be enough to install Windows and leave room for at least a few programs and a couple games, and if the person wants to throw an SSD or a hard drive in it, they're very welcome to. Now, the case that I'm building in is the Dark Flash DLX4000, which is normally like a $120 chassis that I got on sale for less than $20 on Amazon. I don't know if they were going out of business or if this model was just discontinued or whatever, but I got it for a steal, and I will say it's one of the highest quality cases that I've ever built in. Now that the motherboard is installed, I got to do some cable management, and while I do that, I want to talk about the components I'm using. I'm sure some of you are wondering, why am I water cooling a Ryzen 5? And simply because I already had these parts. This is my old test bench, and I wanted to practice water cooling, and I wanted to get rid of the test bench, so I figured, why not throw the test bench into a chassis, do some really cool water cooling stuff on it, get some practice in, and then sell it for a profit. I ended up using the 1080 Ti because getting a water block for it, which I used the Swiftech Komodo, was super cheap. I think it was like $55 compared to a water block for, let's say, a 4090, which is over $250. And also, I only had to use one radiator, so that's saving me a little bit more money. Basically, the goal was to build a really cool looking parallel water loop with as little money as possible and still make it like a very capable overclockable system. Basically, all the fittings except for a couple of the 90s, which were Barrow, and the pump are both Dracaena brand, which I got off of Amazon. They had pretty good reviews and honestly are pretty high quality. Recently, I actually had the opportunity to talk to Jay's 2 Cents in person, and he told me that he had just used some of these fittings and he liked them as well. So, if you need cheap water cooling fittings, check them out on Amazon. Besides the fittings and the pump, I got basically everything else from PPCS or Performance PCs. They're a really good shop. I actually received the GPU water block without a backplate. It said it included one, so I sent them out an email and they got it to me within a couple days. Every interaction I've had with them has been positive. They're a really good company and you should definitely check them out. I'll leave a link to them below. At some point here, my phone died while I was trying to figure out the perfect position for the radiator, which I eventually found. And, well, now it's time to do the tubing. The tubing, along with the coolant that I'll be using, as well as the tubing cutter and the pressure tester, are all XSPC brand. And they're typically much cheaper than, let's say, Corsair or EK, and their stuff seems to be on par. The tubing I used is 3/8 inner diameter, 5/8 outer diameter, so it's pretty thick tubing, and it's kind of hard to get the fittings on, to be honest. I tore my fingers up pretty good. Should have worn gloves or something. Hey, and I just want to make it clear really quick that if I say I like a product or a company, like, just know that I'm only saying that because I want to. I'm not being sponsored by anybody. I don't have enough followers for that. I'm not making money off these videos. I'm making videos like this because I enjoy making videos like this, and I want to show other people the things that I'm building because I enjoy doing it, and I'm proud of the stuff that I do, and I want to also help other people make good decisions on the products they choose and the companies they go to. So if I don't like something, I'll tell you that. If I like something, I'm going to tell you about it. I will say that I probably could have made my life a lot easier by just warming up this tubing by sticking it in some boiling distilled water. It makes putting the fittings on much easier because it's warm and a little bit more flexible, and yeah, should have done that. When you're working with thick tubing particularly, like, it can be very hard to put fittings on. I will say that these weren't as hard to put on as my EK water block fittings that I used in my other builds, so that was a plus. Those ones literally like ripped my hands up. Anyway, let's finish up this tubing so we can fill this build up and see how it runs. The reason the fluid is running unevenly like this is because I haven't gone into the BIOS to adjust the RPM of the pump yet. As soon as I adjusted the pump, it filled up in an instant, and it looks great. Now, one thing I'll say is right now I don't have matching fans on the radiator. I did order some, and after I installed them, it looked like this. Once it was all set up, I overclocked the hell out of it and ended up getting the top score in the world for the 1080 Ti with the Ryzen 5 5600 on Port Royal and 3D Mark. And as for just the 1080 Ti for a single graphics card, I got the 29th score in the world. Pretty happy with it. I ended up posting this computer on Facebook Marketplace and I sold it for $840. Oh, and if you were wondering what I did with the original 1080 Ti heatsink, well, when I ran into Jay's 2 cents, I had him and Phil sign it, so now I got it up on my shelf. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please follow, subscribe, or do whatever you gotta do on whatever platform you're watching it on. See you soon.